560. The Answer.
That there are those who are unable to see what can be, but there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been.
Brilliant! Thank God it was too big to rig. Someone on one of the chats said, so they didn't steal the election when Trump won? No, he was too big to rig. He beat that office whore by 4-1 votes. 4-1! You see, Smartmatic and Dominion had the software cooker, where 2-1 was just a push. Kicking her ass because people didn't want to be ruled by this imbecile.
That there are those who are unable to see what can be, but there are many more who are able to see what can be unburdened by what has been.
Where has socialism ever worked, Senator?
Is that another question, or is that for the next interview?
That's definitely for you. You said fish doesn't work everywhere. I just want to know one place where socialism has been beneficial.
Well, when you have me come back on, we can talk about all the races across the country.
Ready.
Let's talk about just the places it always failed.
Even before the start of this year, about 60% of Havana's garbage trucks were out of service for lack of spare parts. The state simply doesn't have enough money to fix them. But today, with the US oil blockade now into its 5th month, the trucks that are still working don't have fuel enough to pick up the rubbish. And that's led to a situation like this all over the island, not just in the cities, in towns as well. Huge mounds of rubbish, of trash, are growing, often just yards away from people's houses. And as you can see, and as my eyes can feel, residents have taken to burning it in a desperate bid to contain the growing problem.
Whenever anybody talks about socialism, communism, or Marxism, point them to the once beautiful island, now prison island, called Cuba. Verlon, Michigana.
Okay, I got to respond to your guest the first hour, and I got to respond to what you just said about Kamala. Now, in that first hour, when I was listening to you all talk about credit, money down, and all of that, haven't you all heard that Section 8 is paying for homes for the Section 8 people so they can become owners all across America in all of these different places that accept Section 8? That's number one. And then when it comes to Kamala being beaten, we just talked about it out here, and we talked about raw numbers. And I want everybody to remember something. If Kamala could have moved 82,000 votes in the Electoral College, 82,000 votes in Pennsylvania, 18,000 votes in Wisconsin, and 15,000 votes in Michigan, she would be president right now. That's how close it really was, and how bad it has gotten in this country that it came that close.
First of all, your state of Michigana has tremendous amount of Democrat thief neighborhoods that stole the 2020 election. So I'm not sure I'm willing to accept those numbers. And all you have to do is look at the county outcome of the election, or any election. Look, just do yourself a favor. Ask your evil Google machine in your hand, which show me the county election results from 2020, 2024, go all the way back to 2000, and see how much of this country is actually dumb enough to be Democrat. It's infinitesimal. Infinitesimal. All the ghetto areas. And by the way, your point about Section 8 housing, do you know what those neighborhoods are called in the real estate business, Verlon?
No.
Ghettos. And you don't want to be anywhere near one. The last thing you ever want to hear from your neighbor is, I don't pay to rent. Thank you very much, Verlon. That's how you know it's time to pack up U-Haul. By the way, when you hear people who have made something out of themselves, have been tremendously successful, talk about the realities of what it's like to operate in a business under any Democrat, pay attention.
He's making it really clear. New York doesn't welcome success. Are these states trying to push away from their populations those who really do believe in the merits of capitalism, the merits of a free society, the importance of education? I mean, to me, it feels like Illinois has been very successful with this undertaking. If you've opposed J.B. Pritzker, you probably left by now. You've had enough. It's just not worth it every day. What did it feel like in Chicago with J.B. Pritzker as governor? It felt like being a salmon swimming upstream to die.
That's
Like,
nice.
why?
That's a nice image. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, isn't that a nice way to end today?
Yeah.
But it felt like pointlessly hopeless. Now, the great news is most of my friends from Chicago are now my friends in Miami.
Not to mention employees. See, he didn't just leave, sell his property. He took billions and billions and billions of private sector with him. That's the cost of corruption. But here's the good news in Illinois. You guys have this magic system that I didn't even know existed, and I didn't even know that anybody could get access to a governor, especially when they got just enough sugar in the tank to make you quiver.
So tell my viewers more about Search It, please.
Okay. Well, first of all, we passed something called CEJA a few years ago, the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act, which does, well, what you can imagine, which is enhances our solar and wind in the state. In fact, we went from 7.5% solar and wind to almost 21% now. That's almost tripling. That's just in the last 5 years. But recently we passed SERJA, which one of the big things we're doing is taking all that solar and wind and making sure that we've got battery power to hold the power so that when we get, heavy usage times, we can access the power in that grid, in that store.
So let me get this straight, Squirrel. Because you can't store energy, even though they pretend you can. All your wind, all your solar, the wind is blowing, the sun is shining, and if that energy isn't being used, what happens to it? It goes into a battery. And then you hope that you can draw that energy from the battery. It sounds perfectly reasonable, you fat slob. That's exactly as good as nuclear or natural gas or coal or oil.
So this is our pilot isotope production reactor we call Groves 1. And it's something we built from the ground up in about 229 days to reach substantial completion. One of the fastest built reactors since the Manhattan Project.
The last time America built a nuclear reactor at this speed, it was wartime, more than 80 years ago. Now, on the outskirts of Lockhart, Texas, in an area called Prototown, a startup is trying to do it again.
So what we're walking into right now is the reactor room. This is going to be the room where we achieve criticality.
Oklo is one of 11 companies selected for President Trump's nuclear reactor pilot program.
I'll take that plan over J.B. Pritzker and the wind and solar. This big fat ass. He's the one who inspired that scene in the movie Franks and Beans. Never saw a zipper. A lot of zipper accidents. Greg LaGrange.
Hey, how you doing, Sean?
Wonderful.
I do like the idea of corporations coming together and working together. I read an article in this Wall Street Journal yesterday about Chevron working with a company called Julian in Texas. That's what you guys are talking about. And then Exxon something with Next Era Energy, and I think that's definitely the way to go. I mean, if you could, nuclear submarines, U.S. nuclear submarines have a pretty good, if not perfect, record of not having any accidents on their nuclear powered stuff.
And they last for 30 years. Never have to stop for gas. Yeah.
I think that's something you can look at. And you can also look at something like thorium reactors where the half-life of the fuel that you're using is a little bit more stable and less of a problem overall to the rest of the planet. But I think that's definitely where the answer is. I mean, wind and solar is never going to be the primary generator of running your energy for a country, in a modern industrial country. It's not. And you can't get rid of petroleum because it's in everything else. Even if you were to get rid of petroleum as a fuel, it still is going to be needed for everything else.
Correct.
And it's going to take a long, long time to replace that, if ever.
Well, Greg, I'm still very optimistic that somebody will realize Nikola Tesla was exactly right, and energy is everywhere, and that what we have is corporatism that has decided to keep us away from things that are really relatively easy to get and for our own good. I mean, you could look at some of the stuff he put together and how the government destroyed it. That tells me he was right. Yeah.
What you got to do, and you probably saw it. There was a great series. I have a couple of the tapes. The Men Who Built America, the J.P. Morgan one, where it highlights the entire battle between Edison and Tesla.
Yep.
You know, Tesla worked for Edison, and it's incredible. That series, I'll tell you right now, you watch the series, and if you read the book of Giant about J.D. Rockefeller and the first tycoon about Cornelius Vanderbilt, and you watch a couple of those tapes and get the general idea of what they did, you don't even have to go to business school. Those guys told you how
they
to
controlled the market. They sold the lie of finite energy rather than allowing people to understand exactly what energy is. Thank you very much, Greg. Of course, I watched it. Come on, talking to me, Bob, Mount Prospect.
Sean, if my mother was still alive, she would say, Kamala Harris talks like she's got a paper a-hole.
Oh, I've never heard that. What continent was your mother from?
Blue Island.
All right, fair enough. All right, it makes sense now.
When I was a little tyke.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Bob, every once in a while, someone will say something I never heard before, and you just did it, Bob.
Oh,
you just
good.
said something I never heard. Thank you very much, Bob.
I'm glad.
And
all right, thank you. Bye.
You tell your, yeah, I love that. That's it. The continent of Blue Island Squirrel. I think Tom's from there. That explains his accent and his understanding of economics. 312-642-5600.
He believes in freedom, capitalism, and individual liberty. And because of that, he's become an enemy of the state. He's Sean Thompson, and this is The Sean Thompson Show on AM 560. The Answer.